Welcome to the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, featuring stellar conversations with emerging and established wickedly smart women. Thanks for joining us today as we celebrate women who are committed, care deeply, and have the courage to take action and create conscious change all around the world. Now here's your wickedly smart host, Angel B. Hartwell.
Welcome to another episode of the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, where we celebrate wickedly smart women and provide our listeners with a wealth of wisdom along with immediately actionable steps to be smarter, spunkier, and more successful in their impact and their leadership. This is your host, Angel B. Hartwell, and today we welcome our special guest, Nancy Dillingham Marks. After 30 plus years in corporate, Nancy Marks took a creative leap of faith after finding her passion with fused glass. Beginning with a single class despite her initial self-doubt about having any artistic talent, to her surprise, she discovered a knack for working with glass and embraced the imperfect beauty of her creations. Nancy opened Glass Arts Collective, which is more than a studio, and we are going to talk today about the journey and what is developing there along the way. So welcome to the show, Nancy. Thank you so much for being here.
Angel, thanks so much for having me. I am very excited.
Great. Well, I want to start by asking, were you creative as a little girl and then you lost it somewhere along the way in the corporate monolith and then it came back? Or is it something that is this creativity and artistry something that just kind of emerged in a surprising way?
I wasn't aware of it as a child. I don't look back and go, wow, I used to do so many things. I have done a little soul searching and realized that some of the ways I did things in the corporate world were creative. But that was part of my not understanding really the word creative. I associated it more with the arts. But I really didn't believe I was artistic or creative. My dad and my sister were amazing artists. And I would draw a stick figure and it didn't look anything like it should. Very, very uncomfortable trying to make it, and it didn't look right.
Right. Well, yeah, I would love, let's go into your definition now of creativity, because I agree with you. I think there are so many ways that we can be creative. And I remember when I had my kind of spiritual awakening, all of a sudden art started pouring out of me, and it's very abstract, and, you know, it's not necessarily something that like looks like a replication of what you see in real life. So I would love to hear you maybe define for us what you now see as creativity, and what are some of the things that happened along the way to help you shift into this current definition.
I think the definition for me now is understanding that you can be creative in the way you put things together, in organizing things. I actually was creative in problem solving and seeing kind of what somebody could be having a struggle with if they didn't have an answer from somebody right then. So by putting tools together and pieces together in whatever job it was, people could actually self-serve. They could find the answers they needed fairly easily. And it didn't have to require any stress on their part, and it was already done. So it made it really easy for them. And to me, in the past, I didn't see that as creative, but I definitely see that now and what I was doing. What got me to where I am today was actually kind of a funny situation. My mom was at an assisted living facility here in Southern California, and they had someone teaching fused glass as a class. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. I looked it up. It didn't really make sense to me. So I decided there was a place not close, but not too far from me. And I decided I was going to take a class. And I struggled with the idea of signing up to take an art class because I'm not artistic. And I kept wanting to drag my feet. I wanted to cancel the class. I'm like, no, I already invested the money. I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden, an epiphany. I'm doing this for mom. This isn't for me to prove anything to anyone. It's something else I can do with mom. I can understand what she's so excited about. And perhaps it's something we can do together. And that changed my mindset completely. And I went to the class and I enjoyed it. Well, my mom's 85th birthday was coming up. My dad and I talked about it and said, you know what? Why don't we take her to the new studio that's now opened fairly close and have her birthday party there? And we can give her a little invitation she can pass out to her friends. And the assisted living facility was very kind because it was a day that didn't have any major need for the van. They allowed the van to bring over some of the residents, and one of the other people who could drive drove a couple of residents. And we had a beautiful birthday party for mom. And her friends were just beyond themselves because they loved the studio, they loved seeing everything. And mom got so many compliments on her birthday party. And I was like, you know what? I had an even better time this time. And all of a sudden, it was as if the sky had opened up and creativity and artistic abilities all were flowing. And that's not quite the time I realized looking back, but the more I thought about what is the difference between creativity and artistic, I realized that they do get intermixed a lot. I'm not the only one doing that. And it is an interesting dynamic because there are people who are creative and can write and music and cooking and all kinds of things. And they don't feel like they're artistic because they don't feel like they're making it special enough. And I still think that there's a big mix between the two words. The word art really doesn't have a clear definition either. So it's lovely to know that you can call yourself artistic, whether anyone else feels that way or not. If it makes you feel good, then say it. If it makes you feel good to say you're creative, say it. But don't use those words in a negative is the thing. My goal to everyone is to stop using those words as a creative. I'm not this or I'm not that, because I really believe we all have it in us. And we just sometimes have to find the right medium. For me, it was glass. Um, Woodworking didn't do it for me. Ceramics, painting, sewing, electronics. I took electronics in high school. There were a lot of things that didn't work for me. They didn't trigger those words. They didn't trigger those feelings that I have when I'm doing glass.
I love that you are really connecting it to the feelings, because I will say for me, when my artist kind of emerged in my own journey, it really is about the feeling. It's the feeling. And the other thing that I heard there is when you went twice to this glass place, you let go of any kind of attachment. It wasn't about, have creating some, I don't know, award winning or multi-million dollar piece. I just saw a post the other day about some guy who literally duct taped a banana to a wall and called it art and decided that that was worth multiple millions of dollars. Somebody decided the banana taped to the wall was worth multiple millions of dollars. So there's a lot in the arts world that can be very confusing to
Yes.
to consider, both monetarily as well as, just sensibility. So
Yes.
I love that you let go of the attachment. And I remember when my kiddo, who's now approaching 30, he was in kindergarten or first grade, he brought home a piece of paper and it said art is, and there was like, just like a little line across it and a little tree on the other side, and art is was all he did. The rest of the class said art is X or art is Y or art is Z or art is W or whatever they said art was, and he just had art is. So I love that you have come to a place now where you are really wanting to help people to let go of the negativity that they have towards themselves around creativity and art. Let's talk a little bit about what inspired you after 30 plus years in corporate to leave your corporate world behind. Like what happened that inspired that, and then we'll talk a little bit of about getting into this business as well.
Well, I worked for a lot of large corporations, names you'd recognize: ABC Entertainment, Columbia Pictures, Sony Pictures Entertainment, IBM, Toshiba, all names you'd recognize. They're very large corporations. And I did very well in a variety of different jobs. If you had looked at my resume, you would have said wasn't qualified for most of them, but I was very successful in them. So back then, I was able to recognize that just because something is written on paper doesn't mean that's who I really am. And it doesn't limit me to being only what I have experienced before. And I've learned I can take on just about anything and do well with it if I have the mindset that's what I want. And so I worked in all these different corporations, and I was a single mom from the time my daughter was about 3. My first husband and I just weren't the best of a match. We're still good friends, which is great. And I was working for IBM towards the end of my big corporations. I met my second husband, and we got engaged. And he said, I have a technology company too. And instead of selling for IBM, you should be selling and working with me. And I thought, okay, working with my husband to be, I've seen too many stories, but you know what? If that's what I want, I can make it happen. And there were some struggles, but we made it work. And he got to the point where he was ready to retire. And I wasn't. And so I knew this was coming. So I was trying a lot of different types of jobs and working with different organizations, and none of them were really exciting me. And this I knew I needed to do something, so I started my own travel agency. I was a independent with a hosting company, and I really did enjoy that. I really enjoyed helping plan trips for other people, and I specialized in cruises. And I had a very good time doing that. And then it got to a point where it wasn't enough. I wasn't good at marketing. That was the only part of business that I really wasn't good at. Just to step back a little bit, when I was working for my husband, he had a small corporation, and I ended up doing some of everything. I had many hats that I wore. He had other people at times, but people would leave, and I'd fill in the spot till we found someone new. And I ultimately was the chief operating officer. So all of the accounting and the business stuff was kind of on my plate. We didn't really do very much advertising because word of mouth. He had a very successful company and did very well. So I knew how to run a business. So that was easy for me to think about running a small business. But I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. And my husband then sold the business, and I worked for the next company for a little bit. They didn't really need me. They wanted my expertise and my knowledge, and they didn't really want it. So I said, you guys are, this is silly. I don't
They
need to be
wanted it,
sitting
but they
here.
didn't want to pay you.
No, they wanted to pay me and they didn't want to listen. It was the reverse. It was very
Oh,
odd.
that's interesting.
And that was very uncomfortable because I was
Oh.
seeing things that were going on that, weren't the way I felt it should be. It doesn't mean it was wrong. It wasn't the way I felt it should be. So I suddenly realized I needed to do something. So I started hanging out at the studio that was close to home and doing a lot more work there and helping out any way I could. And the the next part of the story, I think, is the next question you're about to ask, which is, how did I get into this?
Well, I'm going to put you on pause and we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to ask that question. So, right now, though, Wickedly Smart Women, we could use your support. If this show is lighting you up, we invite you to join our vibrant community Make a donation at wickedlysmartwomen.com and share the show with the powerful women in your life who could benefit from our content. And now I'm thrilled to announce something truly exciting for listeners who are ready to break free from corporate life and start building their own consultancy business. If you've been feeling that call to step into your next level of freedom and impact, we are now accepting applications for the Wickedly Smart Women Start Smart 30-day intensive. This is your chance to create a business that's fully aligned with your expertise and purpose. To learn more and apply, visit wickedlysmartwomen.com and click the Apply to Speak with Angel button. Let's explore if this program is the next right step for you. A huge thank you to everyone who's downloading, rating, and reviewing the show. We're celebrating thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads from all over the world. And I want to send a special shout out to our listeners in Slovenia, Trinidad and Tobago, and Sri Lanka. And we will be right back with Nancy Dillingham Marks.
The Wickedly Smart Women podcast is brought to you by the Creative Age Consulting Group. Women, are you feeling that inner nudge, knowing it's time for a change and ready to decide what's next? If you're a high-achieving woman considering leaving corporate life to start your own consultancy, now is the time to gain clarity. Introducing the Wickedly Smart Women's Roadmap to Get Started Consulting. This is your essential guide to making the decision with confidence. Inside, you'll discover the top 10 signs that it's time for a high-achieving woman to exit corporate and start her own business before it's too late. Visit roadmap.wickedlysmartwomen.com or click the link in the show notes to download your free copy and take the first step toward deciding if starting your own business is the right move for you. Once again, that's roadmap.wickedlysmartwomen.com. Get started today.
And we are back with Nancy Dillingham Marks. She is the owner of the Glass Arts Collective. You can find out more about what she has going on there at the Glass Arts Collective and maybe take some courses at glassartscollective.com. And we will have that for you in the show notes. So before we went to the break, Nancy, we were right up at that moment where something happened and you made the decision to start or maybe buy. I don't know what happened. How did you get Glass Arts Collective to start emerging from the great unknown into the world?
It was a situation where the owner of the location that was closer to me decided to close this location. And I laughed. She had a great crystal ball because that was at the end of 2019. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I did not want to stop doing art. And I didn't want to stop doing glass. So I went to my husband, and his first comment was, "You cannot have the garage." And I was like, wait, that's not fair. And so we went back and forth a little bit, what I should do, what could I do? And he finally said, "You know what? You know how to run a business. Start your own." So I went to several of my friends and I said, "This is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think?" They said, "Oh my God, you light up whenever you talk about glass and whenever you talk about creating things. You have come into your own. Yes, you should do it." And I sort of use them a lot as my board of directors. And so Glass Arts Collective was born. I got a lease, I got a space, and I went out and bought inventory. And 5 weeks after we opened the doors, COVID hit and shut the doors on me.
Mm-hmm.
That was a challenge, as you might guess. But you know what? I'm a wickedly smart woman. So what did I do? Well, most of my life, I always wished I'd had more time. And, gosh, if I only had, more time now, whatever. I was suddenly gifted time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know what? I am going to be productive with this. So I expanded my skills and really pushed the envelope with what I could do with glass. And I worked and had a wonderful time. It was major mental health time for me. Working in art, whatever kind of art you choose, really does have many mental benefits for you. And it was anxiety, it was depression. I've taken on this lease, I've taken on all this inventory, all these bills. But I knew, I knew this was what I was supposed to be doing. So
Mm.
how do I do it better? And how do I get to that next space? I do have a gift shop in the front of the brick and mortar, which is now online, so that I ship throughout the United States, which I didn't at that time. But I have grown that as well. And I have a community now. So people started coming into the studio when the gift shop was allowed to be open. I actually checked with the state, and there wasn't a clear definition of when I could open. So I took every safety precaution I could. I have multiple tables. I separated people by more than the 6 feet. They all had their own tools, and other people were coming in and wanting the mental health benefits and being creative and having a place to go that was positive and great energy. And we had the music playing. So many people don't know fused glass. It's considered warm glass. So
Yeah, that was
hot
my next
glass.
question. I wanted
Yeah,
to know.
sorry, I'm a
Help
mind
us.
reader as well.
No, yeah, you are obviously a mind reader. My next question was, can you please tell us exactly, specifically, and precisely what the process of fused glass is all about?
So we take special glass that can go to the high temperature in a kiln. Now, blown glass is considered hot glass, and stained glass is considered cold glass. So we fall in between that. And we take the glass at room temperature with the music playing, and we place pieces together. We can form something abstract, we can form something very specific. We can do a lot with design and flow and textures with glass, which is sort of hard to believe because glass is usually pretty flat. And we can do so much with it. And then we put it into a kiln, very similar to a ceramics kiln, and a lot of them are made by the same manufacturers. The heating elements are in slightly different places. And we heat it up to about 1,500 degrees. And that is a high enough temperature to fuse the glass together. And then it's about an 18-hour cycle. I have a very conservative cycle from when I put it in to when I take it out. So I program my kilns to start after the electric rates go down. And
Because
that's
you're a
saving the electricity.
businesswoman. Because you're a
Yeah,
businesswoman.
and it's helping the environment, and it's
Yeah.
helping, have more power for our children. And now I have grandchildren, so that's important to me. And we open the kiln, and it's like Christmas morning. It's these beautiful, bright colors and designs, and you just get so excited.
Beautiful. Well, I want to take a moment now because, I'm sure many of our listeners, I know every wickedly smart woman that I know, has some kind of creativity within them. And many of us, indulge in our creativity often on the side. What I want to ask you now is, let's talk about money, right? Because you invested to start this brick and mortar thing. And, first of all, we have to get over the hump of admitting that we do have creativity and we can make
Yes.
art and then let's get over the hump of how about monetization? Like, what do you do to monetize something like this? And obviously in your case you started right before Corona, so I'm very curious about how you navigated that as a businesswoman financially.
Well, I had been putting some money aside. I knew I was going to be doing something. So I put my nest egg aside specifically for starting a new business with my husband's support. He's been wonderful at being very supportive of all of this because, it isn't something that everyone can understand. He doesn't feel he's creative. He doesn't feel he's artistic. So, how could I be doing this? But when I opened the studio, it was just my stuff in the gift shop. And I had what I called open studio program. And it would be like a membership program, and you could come in, rent space, and purchase the equipment. Purchase the glass, any equipment you might need, as well as kiln time. And as the studio continued to grow and things were opening up, I realized I needed to look at the finances even more closely. So the gift shop was expanded to include kind of my VIP open studio membership. I have 3 levels, and they could put things in the gift shop because they're making stuff on a regular basis, and most of them don't have the business sense to create their own business or to run a business. And most of them have other jobs. So they don't have the time. So I opened up the gift shop to them as well. They're supporting me. I wanted to support them, and I take a percentage. And then I realized that, you know what, I have enough supplies that people who want to do stuff at home could be buying their supplies from me as well. And so I started marketing that. Marketing has not been my best suit. I'm still working it. I don't want to say that everything I do, is the golden touch in any way, shape, or form. But I learned from my mistakes, and I accept that, you know what? I learn more from a mistake than I do from doing it right every time. And
Absolutely.
I ask friends, I take more classes. And when you have a purpose for the class, you learn a lot more than when you're just taking a class because you have to.
Absolutely.
So that
Absolutely.
helped tremendously. And boy, there's so many people who can tell me how to do marketing, and they all conflict with each other. And so I just keep trying what makes sense to me, and
Beautiful.
doing a lot more with the community, getting involved with more charities and being able to give back, has felt incredible. And it's now almost 5 years that I've had the studio, and it's doing well. And it's going to continue to grow and thrive because I'm comfortable saying, you know what else can I do to help people who help me? So,
Beautiful.
yeah,
All right. Well, we only have about a minute left, but I wanted to just quickly kind of summarize that for our listeners, that the things that you did to be able to set yourself up for success were you set aside money, you had money set aside. And so I strongly encourage anybody who's thinking about leaving corporate, while you still have the golden parachute, to consider, set some of that money aside, and not for when you're 97, but for now, to do
yes,
something now with it. You had support. You shared the wealth with the other people who were in the studio, and then you do the things that make sense to you, which I will tell everyone who's listening that any kind of entrepreneurial venture is primarily a crapshoot. Let's just be real. We're all doing the best we can with the limited amount of knowledge that we have. And the last piece that I heard was you've gotten yourself schooling, which getting schooled and learning from other people that have more in whatever area you're learning about, whether it's the craft itself, or whether it's business or marketing or whatever it is. It's important in that set aside of the money to set aside money for the schooling. So, Nancy, it's been wonderful having you here today. I'm so grateful
thank
that
you.
you and I were able to have this conversation. And I want our listeners to um, go ahead to theglassartscollective.com and see if there's some beautiful piece of glass there, a piece of art that you can acquire from Nancy's collection. All right.
Thank you.
So, thank you for listening, Wickedly Smart Women. We love hearing from you. Your feedback helps us keep growing and serving you better. Head over to wickedlysmartwomen.com right now to join our community. Share your biggest takeaways, ask questions, submit guest suggestions, or explore the Wickedly Smart Women Start Smart 30-Day Intensive. If you're ready to align your mindset, create your exit plan, and step into your own mission-based consultancy business, this program could be exactly what you're waiting for. Thanks for tuning in. Keep your ears open, your heart strong, and remember, you are a wonderful woman.
Thanks for tuning in.